So, as we were talking about in the last lesson, that the corporate world should take accountability because it has all the benefits, and it is responsible for ruining the environment and also creating a class that is impoverished and making it poorer and poorer. So we were discussing the film First Reformed 2017. It tells about a pastor who is talking about existentialist and moralist ideas and feelings and dilemmas about climate change and the role of humanity in the destruction of the planet. So the film explores the psychological burden of climate change on individuals who feel helpless or guilty for contributing to the crisis. So this is another side that is explored, and this has been discussed when one talks about eco-anxiety, when people do not know how they may work towards reducing climate change. If they do not know how or what to do, they become depressed. They feel helpless and guilty that they are contributing to the crisis. So this character, this pastor, he feels this burden of climate change on him. He feels helpless and guilty because he's contributing to the crisis. And this personal accountability is a central theme as characters confront their own complicity and struggle to find meaning in the face of climate change. So the idea of eco-anxiety, the idea of guilt because of climate change, all these feelings come because one feels accountable or one feels responsible, but one feels helpless to be able to do anything because ideas have not been suggested, because they have not got a larger vision. They have their vision has not been expanded. Things have not been open to them. So this happens through climate activism, that people are informed and they are told that there are solutions, that they can resolve some issues through community action. So the pastor is guilty, and there are other characters also who feel guilty, and they feel unable to take action. There was another famous film, Avatar 2009, and it talked about resource exploitation and its consequences on a foreign planet. The film was very popular, and it presented strong environmental themes. It talked about natural resources being exploited for profit, and talked about the devastating impact of colonization and of both environment and indigenous cultures. So this film talks about devastation of natural sources and indigenous cultures together, that is parallel. The destruction of human lives and the environment at times can run parallel. So especially in the case of indigenous populations. The narrative raises questions about humanity's relationship with nature and the ethical responsibilities we have to preserve ecosystems. So it calls the audience to consider the ethical responsibilities towards saving the environment and towards preserving it. Survival and ethical choices. Post-apocalyptic climate dramas often revolve around questions of survival, and the post-apocalyptic climate dramas often revolve around questions of survival and the ethical compromises that individuals must make in a world ravaged by climate disaster. In Mad Max Fury Road 2015, for instance, characters are forced to navigate a desert landscape where water and fuel are scarce, leading to violent conflict over resources. So, as I mentioned this film earlier also, in this film, Fury Road, there is a conflict between gangs, and the conflict is created because of the issue of resource depletion, the lack of water, and the lack of fuel, and it leads to a lot of violence. And when one watches this, one is forced to confront the ethical questions about human existence, and how it is responsible for creating a ravaged and ruined world. These films often pose difficult questions on how far people are willing to go to ensure their survival and what ethical boundaries they are willing to cross. So, ethics is questioned in this film, and the limits of to which they can go to serve their interest and to save themselves versus saving the environment. These questions are raised, and that is what makes such films multi-layered, and that catches the conscience of the audience. They are forced to think over these issues, just in case something like this happened, because the threat of climate change is looming large. What ethical choices would we make, and what would be the right thing to do? So these are not easy questions, and also the question uh, could be, how could those things be avoided? Is it possible that such future scenarios can be avoided by certain ethical considerations, by changing policies, by changing heart, by changing attitude? Is it possible that some kind of collective action can help reverse this threat of climate change and give us a peaceful future? It has often been said that climate change and its impacts, because of the unequal impacts, because of the developing countries and the poorer nations suffering more, the ethical responsibility lies with wealthier nations, with the developed nations, and they have an ethical responsibility to share their wealth, to bring about climate justice, to help those who are most vulnerable and those who have suffered the most because of climate change, to help them out. Now, this brings into mind the issue of climate change. Uh, it was in the news, this news about vaccines. When the disease or epidemic first started, the developing countries were short of vaccine. So, why did that happen? This is exactly the thing, that it was the affluent countries who had all the vaccines. So, and they had vaccines in excess. So, was it not an ethical imperative to see that this global epidemic should be stalled and vaccine should reach everywhere? And perhaps its fiery spread, its very spread, one of the reasons was this inequality of uh, wealth. Some countries did not get the vaccines immediately, and they did not even have the know-how to produce the vaccines. So, such themes have been highlighted in some films and climate dramas, and they highlight global inequality, and they show the theme, and they uh, make the audience think about the inequality of different countries, whether wealthy nations can somehow shade themselves from the impacts of climate change, even for a short time, but they still can, and the long-term suffering belongs to those countries who are not so wealthy and who are not so affluent. So raising questions about fairness and justice in the distribution of resources and climate adaptation efforts is one of the themes that belongs to climate dramas. And it brings into focus ethical issues and issues related to climate justice. So climate change, it's no more something that is in the background or in the backdrop. It has a voice of its own. It is an entity in its own way in drama and films, and especially in drama, as we are focusing on drama, it is itself a powerful narrative, and it shapes the stories that engage audiences on both intellectual and emotional levels. So, when we talk about the folk who are dependent on the sea, and when we see dramas that talk about that relationship of the fisherman to the sea, then one realizes that nature has its own powerful narrative, because the fishermen know the power of the ocean and its changing moods. So they have to live in accordance with its patterns, with its moods. So if the ocean were a symbol, it could be also a powerful narrative of climate change. By incorporating real world scientific findings, treating climate change as a character, and exploring moral dilemmas and ethics, these dramas offer a multifaceted exploration of humanity's relationship with the environment. So I just talked about the ocean, but it could be relation to the mountains, or it could be relation to the trees, or to the earth itself. So, or to any of the stars or sun, and the emerging drama is very powerful because climate change is itself the narrative, and it is about the relationship of human beings with the environment, and all in all, humanity is the one that is responsible if that relationship is disturbed. Through storytelling, climate dramas play a crucial role in shaping public consciousness about the urgency of climate action. So, dramas may use storytelling, but they make use of science, they make use of actual events, they personify climate change, they give a voice to climate change. So, in this way, unlike history books or science books, or even books that are in which we read stories, these stories are living, and they tell us the living reality of human interaction with nature. There are many challenges in representing climate change in films. We already know that climate change is a very complex and vast issue, and we already know about its unequal impacts in various countries, cultures, geographical regions, etc. So there is no general consensus of what an impact could result in. It is very open, and it is very crucial, and it is very complex too. So showing this in films is extremely difficult. It is extremely challenging. As I tend to think, the film Snowpiercer, which I hope you all have got a chance to see by now, is very powerful in this respect, that it has managed to capture an important climate event and has dealt with it in such a powerful manner. It has taken a slice of climate change and dealt with it in a way to show how humanity itself becomes a plaything in the hands of nature, where it is just reversed, where human beings thought that nature was a tool and a plaything in their hands. It was meant to serve their ends. And in this film, everything is reversed, and humanity is now at the mercy of nature and restricted to a train that is circling the ice, and in the end they have to make amends and to adapt to that, to whatever nature has turned into an ice age. They have to adapt to that. So as one of the most pressing problems facing humanity, climate change affects numerous aspects of life: economical, political, social and environmental. So it can affect us at any level, and we can see these numerous possibilities of its effects. And so bringing this multifaceted topic uh, into a format that engages and entertains audiences while educating them is not so simple. That's why I say the film Snowpiercer must be seen, because it's a very difficult thing to bring climate change so close to our vision and to see it so clearly on screen. So that was the very, very ingenuous part of this film. That's why I recommend that you keep watching the films that I talk about, so that you may understand more and more about the relationship between climate change and literature. Filmmakers struggle. Filmmakers often struggle how to present the scientific, emotional and ethical dimensions of climate change in a way that resonates with viewers. So of course we know that science facts are cold and matter of fact, and how does one bring them to an emotional level where they will resonate with the viewer? So that is the excellence, that is the genius of filmmakers and directors, how they bring the scientific, emotional and ethical dimensions of climate change in one film. It resonates with the viewers. And the reasons behind this difficulty, the reasons are the complexity of the issue. It is complex. Viewer fatigue, balancing entertainment and education. Viewer fatigue, um, viewers, if they are not kept interested and not kept hooked to their seats, they will lose interest and they will be tired. Also, if something only harps on education and morality, then it loses out on entertainment. So they have to balance this out, that they may educate and they may entertain, but they must convey the gravity and the concerns of climate impacts and climate justice. So as we discussed, it's a very complex issue, and the demand is that they simplify it and still retain its seriousness, and being multifaceted, multi-dimensional, multi-layered, it's very difficult to sort of restrict it to a film and to talk of it in the level of one story. But nevertheless, many films have done that, and we already know that global phenomena has diverse causes and consequences which are very difficult to condense in a 2-hour or 3-hour narrative, and to keep the message intact and keep the interest going, So all those things are very difficult, but that is the success of a film that is well made, which can, especially a climate film, which can convey the complexity and the impending dangers of climate change, and yet not lose the audience. So there are some movies that are great entertainers, but they are also a great education. So we can say this about not only about dramas, but we can say this about the films that are animated films. There are some like that in which one cannot lose interest, and yet the climate change issues remain in the focus. For a film to succeed as entertainment, it needs to simplify its subject matter. So there is simplification versus accuracy. However, simplifying climate change can sometimes lead to inaccuracies or oversimplifications, which may undermine the gravity of the issue. So, simplification does not mean inaccuracy. One still has to be true to the scientific reality. Films like The Day After Tomorrow have been criticized for exaggerating the speed and the intensity of climate change effects. I think we mentioned this earlier also. But if this is done with an interest to awaken people to the urgency of climate change, perhaps it is permissible, although it has been criticized a lot. So the urgency should be conveyed without oversimplification. Another challenge is to convey the long-term and incremental nature of climate change. Films that depict climate change as a sudden catastrophe, for example 2012, may overshadow the more insidious and prolonged effects. Many people find it difficult to grasp the slow cumulative effects of carbon emissions and rising temperatures, especially when these changes do not manifest on a day-to-day basis. So maybe a film is criticized for its fast pace and for talking about the very speedy movement in climate change, but people have seen that the effects of uh, global warming are rather slow. Actually, in daily lives, they don't see it. So that becomes a great challenge. There is a fear of viewer fatigue, there's a risk of desensitization or overwhelm. Another significant challenge in climate change films is addressing viewer fatigue. So the viewer should not get bored and tired. They should be focused while they're watching and not lose interest. As climate change becomes a more and more common theme in media, there is a growing risk that audience might become desensitized to the depictions of environmental destruction, such as extreme weather events and apocalyptic scenarios. So they may feel that the same scenarios are being repeated over and over again. And so constant exposure to grim narratives can lead to emotional fatigue or a sense of hopelessness. However, as we already know that there are some films, they focus on the positive too, and climate change is such a vast issue with so many dimensions that it is not possible to run out of effects that could be covered in films. So the very fact that people may become bored with being told about environmental destruction or extreme weather events uh, is not too much of a possibility. Uh, when one goes into deep research, uh, the effects are still being discovered, still being studied and researched of climate change and its impact on human beings. So it is not something that is everything is known. So the films that try to address climate change and look at the subject deeply and extensively are not going to fall into the risk of boring their audience with repetition or making them immune to everything that is going on. So films like The Day After Tomorrow and Mad Max Fury Road portray catastrophic consequences of climate change, including floods, droughts, and societal breakdowns. But the scenes between these films are not identical. Even between the first film which was Mad Max, and the second Mad Max Fury Road, the films are not identical. The road that humanity travels, the post destruction, when the earth is destroyed, the journeys are very different, and the films have uh, been very creative in highlighting the conflicts and the outcomes of climate change. So the danger of desensitization is low. But too much of darkness, too many depressing scenes, too many predictions of the end of the world can certainly overwhelm and create eco anxiety. So, in addition to desensitization, some films run the risk of overwhelming viewers with the enormity of the climate crisis, leading to climate anxiety. Films like Interstellar, which depicts a future where Earth becomes uninhabitable due to environmental degradation, can evoke a sense of despair about the future. And it's not only Interstellar talks about the Earth becoming uninhabitable. There are many other such films. We talked about many other films, and in this category, we talked about some animations also, which talk about Earth that has become uninhabitable. So it's repeated again and again, and this thing of despair, the darkness, and the gloom, they can often create despair about the future. And there's a fear that this emotional overload can detach and disengage people from action rather than take action against climate change. So, films require a balance of entertainment and education. A major challenge for filmmakers is to strike the right balance between entertainment and education, and they have a responsibility to raise awareness about the real world impacts of climate change and to encourage positive action. This balance is very difficult to achieve if films focus too heavily on preaching, on morality, on ethics, or education. So there has to be a balance between entertainment and between education. Educational content in entertaining formats, the film strikes a balance between delivering critical educational content and maintaining an emotional narrative arc that keeps viewers engaged. In An Inconvenient Truth, Al Gore's passionate advocacy and use of striking visuals, such as animations showing rising sea levels, made complex climate science more accessible to a wide audience. So there are ways of using visuals and animation to make climate facts more engaging. Documentaries like An Inconvenient Truth and Before the Flood succeed in part because they combine scientific information with compelling personal stories and visuals. So there are diverse platforms which can be used for climate themes, for climate narratives, for climate content, and documentaries have a role, and there are other modes which are climate theatre, and some more modes that are native to Indian, which is called Nukkad Natak, which is very open to public. And climate theatre also is a very important medium which connects the worlds of the human and the non-human. So climate change is something that can be very powerfully conveyed through the medium of cinema, drama and theatre, and because it is accessible to the public, and the only important thing is that the makers of these dramas or films have to be balanced in their approach between education and entertainment. So let us stop here. We will meet again in the next lesson. Thank you.